People don't leave companies, people leave managers.
The company is going to interview you. I think it's also good to like position yourself as interviewing the company.
How do you select companies? Let's say, right? Let's say someone is he's stagnated in the career.
I would say these are the two big red flags while selecting a company or being in the.
Welcome, everybody. We are talking about career growth. So, if you have been following, we have basically broken it down into three parts. So, part one, we talked about promotions. Part two, we talked about role transitions. And this episode is going to be about switching companies, so company transitions. So, if you have not checked the episodes on promotions and role transitions, please go to our channel. We'll also leave the links in our description. It's going to be a interesting discussion. We have Surya as our guest. Surya has been a guest on the other two episodes as well. And with that, let's get started and let's talk about switching companies. What triggers company transition or switching the company for you guys? So maybe we can start with our guest, Surya. When you switched companies in the past, what has been the trigger for you? Has it always been the same trigger or does it keep changing based on the situation?
First of all, thanks Ankur for asking this question. Again, this topic is close to my heart. I have done at least 8 to 9 changes in my career, different companies. I did a lot of quick changes in early in career, and then few small changes, small or big time tenure changes afterwards. But this is close to my heart. Going back to your question, with what is the trigger, right? I I would like to quote an sentence here or proverb or kind of a industry saying, people don't leave companies, people leave managers. They make those decisions based on a very small pocket of people or small pocket of experience. That's first. But if you think about what triggers, there are few things that triggers. One, stagnancy in the current role, bad no growth option, the growth option that we spoke about in our previous episode, either promotion, career role transition and things like that. If those are not happening, people usually being challenged, right? If those things are not happening, that's kind of trigger. Stagnancy triggers, bad culture triggers, right? And the third thing that triggers is attraction to a new one.
Yeah.
May that be a cool tech, may that be a better pay structure that you know of or you heard of. Those are the things I think kind of trigger the company transition thought process.
Yeah, 100% agree with Surya. I think manager is definitely been one of my top triggers for changing companies. But I think there are other things as well, like culture of a company, right? Let's say you join a company, you don't like the culture, it's not a cultural fit. Not necessarily that it's a bad culture or a good culture. It's like it's just not mutual fit, right? It could be the current phase that the company is going through, right? It could be a extremely difficult phase for the company. There might be multiple layoffs that are happening. There may be a lot of instability in the company, and you may not want to like deal with that. So it could be like that as a reason for changing companies. For me personally, compensation is the last thing for changing company. I don't think I have changed companies ever because of compensation. Now, it does not. I don't want it to mean like, hey, I don't want a higher compensation, but that has never been like the primary reason for me to change companies. And I think it is not usually the trigger for most of us in like changing companies. I think once you have like a bad experience with a manager or you were expecting a promotion and it didn't happen for multiple times is what becomes the trigger. The eventual outcome of that might be that, hey, your compensation increases significantly, but I think trigger is usually kind of the things that I talked about.
Well summarized, Ankur. Company instability, I think that was a very good point from your side. How do you select companies? Let's say, right? Let's say someone is not in a, like, he's stagnated in the career, or the company is unstable, or maybe there is very less room for growth. And now you start looking for different companies. What is the selection criteria for a different, like, next company that you want to go for, right?
Good question. So, couple of criteria out there, right? One is very, very personal introspectiveness, is that what you want to see in your next role, responsibility, career. Like, what is your next step? And with that, having that as a prioritized, then go back to the market and see which companies are fitting into that. Let's say you want to you wanted to experience end to end of the process, or end to end of a group or a company or a domain, right? Maybe a small size company better fits to you, or maybe you wanted to be explore a very stable career path. Maybe a big company is better suited, right? So that's kind of in terms of the sizing part of it. And then what skill set you have and what you want to grow there, and which companies are doing better. Let's say you are in automation, automotive, or kind of car or automobile industry, right? So figure out which are the companies those are working in that domain or contributing to that domain, and then select one of them which is doing, or more promising and prospective. Let's say you are in logistics, right? So there are multiple different companies, sizing and domain. That's second. And the third and the most important aspect, which I think we cannot as a group can't stress enough, which is culture. Whether the new company has the culture, or the safety system, encouragement system that you are looking for, whether you fitting into the motto, whether however cliche it may sound, whether you actually kind of align to the mission, whether you are aligned to the goal of the company or not, right? So those are your initial kind of filtering criteria. I don't say it is a selection criteria. At least you kind of narrow down to 5 or 10, and then you go from there on, seeing where which companies are hiring spree, which companies are kind of offering the roles that you are looking for, and all those things. It's a very complex matrix, but at least you filter out many of them, weed out many of them with this initial sizing, domain, culture.
Yeah, building on top of that, I would say, yeah, look at it from, are you currently in a startup, right? Or are you currently in a big tech, or are you currently in a medium sized tech company? I'm kind of focusing on tech because we three are from the tech industry. So I think you first need to make your mind. Hey, am I going to move to a big tech, or am I going to like make a move to a startup, or like what kind of company am I trying to move to? I think getting that clarity is like super important, because the kind of roles you would target would change based on that, right? So let's say if you are a senior engineer in a big tech company, it is quite likely that in a startup you might be getting a staff role or a principal role. You at least could get a staff or a principal role. Similarly, if you are a senior manager in a big tech company, in a startup you might be getting like a director or a VP role, right? So having that clarity, understanding is, I think, the first step. uh, Next would be like understanding the industry that you want to go to. I have seen a lot of people kind of stay in the same industry, try to stay in the same industry throughout their career. It's a strategy. So let's say if you have started your career in fintech, you want to stay in fintech, so you would like limit the number of roles that you could move to, number of companies that would be in your filter criteria. Or if you are not like, you don't care too much about the industry, then your filter is going to be much, your funnel is going to be much wider, right? So again, like having that understanding is going to be important. Look at the role description, uh, that the job you are trying to apply to. Uh, I would say like its role descriptions are like you cannot take it as a guarantee of what you have to do, but I think it gives a good idea about the state of the team, the challenges that may be facing, what kind of opportunities that they might be having. So yeah, I would consider those as like the basic criteria.
Ankur, are there any technical metrics that are important instead of like the culture and the selection filtering of this? Do you think it is important to look at numbers, as in the financial numbers of a company?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You have to do your due diligence, right, about the company, right? Like, is this the right company for me? As part of that due diligence, you have to like look at, okay, what are the financials of this company? What were the past results for this company? What is the leadership in this company? So, like the senior leadership from the CEO, CTO, other senior executives. What does the company comprise of? What has been the past of this company been like? Has this company been like in the news for the wrong reasons? If you are going to a startup, what kind of funding rounds have this company raised in the past? Look at forums like Glassdoor, Blind. What else is there? I assume there are many like you can look at to read reviews. Those are like super helpful, is what I have found. So if you have any connections from that company that are either your friends or you can find on LinkedIn, connect to them, talk to them about like how it is like working for that particular company, and make a informed decision about moving. So yeah, that due diligence is going to be super important.
Totally agree.
Yes,
Thanks,
perfect.
thanks for covering like very broadly, but it's very informative. Thank you for that.
Yes.
it's a
Thank
it's
you,
a
Ankur, for
two-way
that. Yeah.
street, right? Like the company is going to interview you. I think it's also good to like position yourself as interviewing the company, and you are also trying to make a decision whether you want to join that company or not. Let's talk about how to be successful when you join company, right?
Hmm.
What are the
Yeah.
strategies that has worked for us in terms of like being successful in a new company, and like how we have kind of dealt with imposter syndrome in a new company. So uh, Surya, you want to share how you have dealt with this?
So initially, like the way I have done that, or like now I will recommend doing it before even you join the company. You have done your due diligence of like researching the company culture, and you have gone to a point like where you both mutually fit. They liked you, and you kind of liked them, and accepted the offer. You clicked on accept, right?
Yeah.
After that, you have some time before you even join the company. So I would say that's a very great time before even committing and starting your new job. May that be 15 days, may that be 4 weeks, but do your basic research of your group or your team or your your company in terms of the culture, in terms of your roles and responsibility, and go to the second level of your Glassdoor research that you were referring to, or blind research that you were referring to, right? Go for that. But you are good, you liked, you're still liking what you actually accepted, and you are moving ahead and joining the company, right? So I would say most of the company has their transition plan or onboarding plan or ramp
Hmm.
up plan. Right? May that be for some cases it is 90 days, for some cases it is 60 days, 60 days, 90 days, or 6 months, whatever it is. Whether they have a transition or ramp up plan for you doesn't matter. You create one with, at least in association with your manager.
Hmm.
So if they are handing over something which is ready-madely available, perfectly fine. If not, create that for yourself, right? And can you do it in isolation with your manager? Maybe not, right? So initially start trying to meet all your stakeholders, try to understand the expectations, try to understand maybe and all these things are fitting into your transition plan, right? Transition
Yeah.
ramp up plan. Again, keep on saying transition. It's a ramp up plan, right? Try understanding expectation from your role, particular role from you, this particular position, what is the expectation of your stakeholders along with your manager and maybe of your skip, right?
Yeah.
Based on those feedbacks, try to create a ramp up plan first if they are not handing over. Secondly, like set internal goal for yourself that like whether I'm meeting them, what is my plan for like meeting those ramp up plan, right? One second. Third one, I always say like be receptive and observant about your surroundings. You are in a totally new environment where you have never performed. Yes, one thing to latch
Yeah.
on to your skill and then your expertise. I do understand that, but like every company has their own way of doing things. So I usually like whenever I do some wrap up like training for my colleagues or like my juniors wherever I do that, I usually say like never throw out anything established. It
Yeah.
is making sense to you at this point of time, but everything get developed in a place because of certain reason, because of some kind of context there. So if you are not fully aware or grok the context and background there, so be observant and like be part of it to know the pains and like possibilities and then like propose something new. So those are the two like and maybe yeah, those are my two like be observant, create a transition plan, and give yourself some time to succeed there. Ask your manager, your skip like how much time you have to be like be to your optimal.
Very, very good points. Very pragmatic, and I think
Yes.
I could 100% relate with most of the points that you said, Surya. I would just add on to a few things, or maybe like these are like overlaps on what you said. So I listed few things down. For me, the number one was understanding the essence of the company that you have joined. Right, every company has its way of doing things, and first of all, unlearn your previous company's values. Right, I have been guilty of this myself, especially when you work in a company for like anywhere, like if you are working in a company for more than 5 years, you kind of get institutionalized in the ways of that company is working. Right, it's super important. Unlearn that. Don't go there trying to preach everybody of your previous company's ways. Right, so that is super important. So be very curious about, okay, what is it that moves this company? Right, what are the values? What does the senior leadership value in terms of how this company operates? And I think you can understand those things by looking at very small things. uh, for example, if an issue happens in production, how does the company or the engineering team react to that particular issue? Right, when a requirement of a feature is being written, how do they go about writing those requirements? Right, so basically like rituals, what are the rituals of this team? And rituals can tell you a lot about how the company works, and is this ritual really for you or not? So I would say like understanding that essence is super important. As Surya said, talk to as many people as possible. And a lot of times I would even say, if you are joining a tech team, go talk to some non-tech people, right? People from the business side. They can give you like a good perspective. Don't be afraid to look stupid initially. Ask all the like obvious questions, basic questions. You have the new guy card, so play it as much as possible, because you will not get to play it a couple of months later. um, Another thing is to like get a quick win under your belt. Right, it need not be something like super massive or super impressive, but a quick one can be very, very useful. So if you are a software engineer, even if you are making like a few bug fixes, right, improving a small part of a feature a little bit, that goes a long way, because it makes you more confident. The team starts valuing you because you have now helped them like improve their product. And I would say the last thing for me would be just like building onto the feedback point that Surya mentioned. Ask your manager, hey, how am I doing? it's been a month, it's been 2 months, it's been 3 months. How am I doing? Anything that I can improve? What do you want me to do better? Because definitely your manager is kind of assessing you, right, in your first 3 months in the company. So have a very open conversation with your manager. Those feedback or data points from your manager can be very, very useful. Yeah, so those are the things that I think I have learned so far in switching companies.
I think I like the point of having a connect with your manager, right? That is so important. What I have seen is, for a new company, your initial phase, I think they hired you for a reason. A team is accepting a new person for a reason, right? Try to find the core reason behind it, like why I was hired, right? What was the pain point of this team or this company? Why they hired me, right? Set up at least a 6-month goal very initially in your, like, in, have a open conversation with your manager, your team, and set up a goal for 6 months and try to achieve that goal, right? And that's what I think Ankur was mentioning, have a quick win, right? So if you have a quick win, it will definitely set you up for success.
Yes.
So
It's a
yeah.
very, very confident booster, confidence booster, right? Like, if you do a small win,
Yes.
however important it is for your team, doesn't matter. At least you see your worth and value in this in this particular new environment, where you see, you see yourself as a contributing member of this community, new
Yeah.
community that you joined, right? Are part of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. With that, I want to cover one topic of, what if your new steps then you have taken, right? The new company you have chosen, the new team you have chosen doesn't fit. How do you identify that, and what are the steps that you take?
It depends on the severity of the situation for me, right?
Okay.
So is it okay? So if you're not liking the team or the new company that you have joined, right? So let's talk about like this based on the size of the company. So let's say if you have joined a big tech, you don't like the team for some reason. Let's say the technology that the team is working on is different from what you were expecting, or the manager is not uh, gelling well with you. You have an option of switching teams. Especially most of the big techs have that option. It might be difficult, especially when you are new in that particular team. So I would say, like, at least try to like get through that initial period and see if things improve. If things don't improve, try to switch teams. Switch teams is always an option. But if you have joined a small company, a startup, that option is not there. So I would assess, are the challenges that you are facing, you cannot like fix that, right? Then you would have to like fail fast, maybe change company. uh, but it is quite like, if the challenges are related to like technology or the kind of work that you are doing, I think a lot of times those can be fixed even in like smaller companies. The things that becomes difficult to fix are like things around like culture.
Hmm.
So those things become difficult to fix, right? Or you don't like the CEO of the company. The CEO is not going to change, right? So hopefully you can make those calls, judgments correctly before you join the company. But if you have joined and now you don't like things and you're not like super happy, it's keeping you stressed, I would say like fail fast. Yeah, that's how I would deal with it.
So, Ankur, if I summarize you, it's directly not like, the padding, the amount of runway you have before making a decision is directly proportional to the size of the company. So, if it is a big tech,
Yeah,
you
true.
have almost like 4 to 6 months time to make some decisions. If it is a mid-size, maybe 2 to 6, 2 to 3 months, 1 to 3 months, right?
Yeah.
If it is a startup, then it comes to a razor thin 15 days,
Yeah.
a month, right? So maybe just building upon that input that you have, and which was very spot on, Ankur. I would say if you are joining a startup, keep your options open. Maybe like have a couple of
Yeah.
offers at the same time, right? You never know. Everything is see again, like when it is a big tech, a lot of literature, a lot of information available around. When you
Yeah.
are as the size of the company goes down, like it is directly proportional to size. You don't have much information available. If it is a startup, it is only two guys there in stealth mode. You have no information out in the world. You are just talking to a guy in a coffee shop, and then you are making a decision like
Yeah.
in some kind of like big glossy picture, and you join that company. So if you are going through like you are a person going through that situation, maybe building up your backup safety net is is good for you. Like
Yeah.
don't feel guilty about it, right? That's the right thing to do. You create your backup and safety net, and then go with it. And remember one thing, like you are that guy who kind of cracked an interview, or like achieved that, like convinced 5 people, 10 people, 4 people, whatever. You convince 4 people or 10 people in that whole process of interview. You can do it again.
Yeah.
It's not a fluke that happened, right? Like kind of you feel like you got lucky. No, you were not. You kind of went ahead of that tipping point. At this point, you can convince anybody and everybody. Have that confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree with that, Surya. I think awesome discussion on that.
Let me ask you guys this question. Let's say I am just starting in the tech industry. What would your advice be in terms of, should I join a big tech or should I join a startup? Like at the start of your career, what kind of company should I join? And then in later part of my career, what kind of company should I join? Right? Obviously, like given with, I want to preface this by saying that this is a privileged situation to be in, which is like I am getting to choose between big tech and startup. But many people might have that option. So I'm curious how you guys think about, like, how should somebody start?
So this particular question, very interesting question. Like I have to appreciate that question first, right? Before I take a crack at it. Think in a way that like you are not starting a career. You are investing into your career. That's the right way to think about it. And when you say like you are investing your energy, time, and like passion into a career building exercise, that directly like you can draw a parallel to the financial world. Like
Hmm.
in the financial, like in the financial world, investment world, if you go and talk to like kind of experts, it is directly proportional to your age. You can like take higher risk
Hmm.
when you are young, when you are passion and like you have a long runway. If you have like let's say 20s, you can invest into a riskier shares and like companies investment into it and all.
That's
As
true.
you grow up, maybe like your risk appetite goes down, and like there is nothing wrong about it. You kind of adjust to like your surrounding and social and commitments to it.
Yeah.
That's a regular norm. But again, uh, this investment, if I wanted to elaborate the discussion and don't really like focus on a guy who is early on in the career, I'll say like it's your risk appetite that drives where you want to go. May it be like
Yeah.
you are a guy of mid career, like middle management person. You wanted to go to, as Ankur was kind of quoting in his earlier answer, like when people transition from like big corporate to small startup, there is a huge shift of the title responsibility that comes with a responsibility. That's a company wide influence, right? So if you have appetite for that, go ahead, do it. But depends upon like how what you actually want to do in your next career transition.
Good
So I
answer.
think I will add to that one. First of all, there is no black and white answer for this, right? It depends on the individual, actually, right? Like, let's say someone who is passing out from a college and he's a rock star engineer, right? He knows in and out processes, in and out crux of that software development, right? I don't think he will benefit from joining a big tech at that point, irrespective of his financial situation, by the way. As Surya has covered the financial situation, that is one of the biggest factor, right? But I think if that person has a passion to do things from scratch and he's very confident, I think maybe startup he can join, right? But think of a person who he's a very obedient guy. He can learn very fast. He's amazing with the corporate structure, right? He can work under a manager. He can lead teams, right? He's that kind of a guy. I think probably if he joins big tech, he will see the processes around him. He will learn. He will grow in that environment much more, right? So I don't think that it's a one way and like one thing fits everyone, one size fits all kind of situation. It more depends on how you are and what will fit your career goals, right? So, and definitely you like people can switch, right? They can start from a startup career and then they can later go to a big tech and yeah, have the experience over there. The other way can also work. You can start a career in big tech, make sure you go through your like career journey, and eventually you have enough wealth of connection knowledge, and then you can go from there and do a startup, right?
I personally started from larger companies, and as I have progressed in my career, I have moved to like smaller and smaller companies, especially in terms of the size, in terms of the number of employees in that company. Um, so I think big tech will teach you what good looks like, right? So it teaches you about best practices, how to build things extremely efficiently with all the processes. Uh, but startups teach you how to deliver, how to execute, how to like add business value as soon as possible, because startups have to survive, right? Because they have a limited runway, otherwise they will basically die. So I think startups helps you cut a lot of BS, and big tech teaches you what good looks like, as I said, right? So I think the if you can merge these two, then it's the perfect situation, because I think big companies struggle to deliver quickly, right? There are a bunch of red tape and this approval, that approval, going through this certification, that certification. And startup, you can just like kind of skip all that, like most of it, and just deliver. So I think for a new person, I would say like the trajectory of learning is very fast in a startup,
Agreed.
versus a big tech. But then you also don't know what like a very finessed product looks like, what good looks like. So yeah, I unfortunately I don't have an answer.
No, you kind of covered. I think you answered, Ankur. Like it has again. It depends upon the aspiration of the person. Like whether you where you want to
Yeah,
start. And in this particular case, it is little interesting because either or. Like either you start here or that. But at the same time, both have their own upside and downside. You have to
yeah,
judge what you want to, and obviously you are among lucky few to be in that situation where you have option for choosing between the companies and judging them based on whether I wanted to go for a big corporate and startup. But both comes with some really good positive points and also their own set of challenges.
yeah.
I think one thing I can say for sure is you should have both the experiences
Absolutely.
for sure, right? Like
That's also
that
well.
will help you in your career for sure. I want to cover what are some of the pitfalls while selecting new company, right? What are the things? What are the red flags, right? Let's say, how do you define red flags in this territory? So,
So pitfall, I say don't go or join a new company just because of compensation. That's the first one, right? That happens before you even accept the offer. Think about that, like the whole runway, a offer being rolled out, a acceptance being clicked, and you are joining. That's a runway I already spoke about. Be very judgmental about yourself whether you are actually accepting that offer because of the numbers, because at the end of the day your day-to-day experience of a company doesn't really depend upon a number. Yes, You see that once in 15 days, once in a month, but that doesn't really kind of shape up your experience. That's the first one. Second, I also mentioned about a ramp of state, right? Where you are meeting with all your stakeholders as much as possible, well-rounded experience of you wanted to understand that particular position and expectation out of it from all of your stakeholders, not one-sided experience of your skip or your manager. Yes, they are the kind of 60 to 70% they decide, but try to understand expectation from that role. And if you are the person, I just don't want to say, if you are that unlucky and you see there is a huge difference between what you thought this role is versus what they expect. And I have seen that in the data science world a lot. So
Hmm.
many times it is the role is there as a data analyst, or or they are expecting data scientist, or vice versa, right?
Hmm.
You are being hired, you are a PhD, you are being hired for a data scientist role, and the thing that you are hearing in and around is mostly data analysis, right? And then
Hmm.
that's not what it is for you. Or let's say, like for a TPM, whatever you are seeing there, you go there and you talk to your stakeholder. Whatever they are saying is mostly sounds somebody tracking or reporting status, right?
Yeah.
If their understanding is limited for that particular role, you have only two way to go from there: either run out, run quick, run out, cut your
Mhm.
losses, or if you see there is a openness in your audience or stakeholder to change their expectation from that role, which is a uphill battle, but can be done. So I would say these are the two big red flags while selecting a company, or being in the company. One, your expectations are not aligned. Company's expectation from your role, position, your from you at that point is not aligned to what you are thinking. And the second, if you are making all your decision, all your all everything you are happy about for a new company is compensation, maybe you are not heading in the right direction.
Yeah, compensation is a good point actually, because while compensation is obviously super important, not discounting the importance of compensation, but I think just like fighting for that last $5,000 uh, like bonus or increment while joining, I don't know, like sometimes it's just better to, like, if you like the role, if the compensation is in the ballpark that you want, just kind of take it. Like, don't like die on the hill of like a $5,000
Mhm.
more ask.
I think for me, I think one of the pitfalls I will say is a red flag basically. See the financial condition of the firm that you are joining, right? Always, if you see anything that is outside the norm, right? Let's say their burn rate is very high. Let's say their balance sheet shows lot of losses, right? There is a huge acquisition cost, customer acquisition cost. So if you can find those terms, I think eventually that will show you what the company is going to look like 3 years, 4 years down the line, right? And if you are going and joining the firm with a long term perspective, I think it is very important to see how they operate. So
I would
yeah.
just say that I don't think it is like, if a company's burn rate is high, that means the company is bad. I don't think that is true. I think as long as the company has a story for why the burn rate is high and how
Yeah.
they eventually would like reduce the burn,
Mhm.
it's I think it's fine. Look at like the biggest startup example that we have in the last decade, right? Uber's burn
Uber,
rate is crazy, but Uber
crazy.
has one of the smartest engineering talent in the world, right? So
Yeah.
even today I think Uber burns a ton of money to generate a very thin margin of profit.
Yeah.
Does not mean it's a bad company, right? So
Y-
yeah, I think you would want to have more nuance around, okay, if you are burning, if your CAC is high, like how are you, what's the story, what's the end
mhm.
uh, uh, outcome looking like, how do you get to like a low burn rate? Like understanding those details would be like important.
Yeah, with that, I will like to thank Surya for joining us in this career growth. Surya, it was really a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
It was great chatting with you, and thank you for sharing your experience, your insights. I'm sure the listeners would find it very, very helpful.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. And I really liked and enjoyed discussing with you. It was extremely intellectually stimulating discussion. So both of you, Ankur and Vishal, I can't thank enough. And I would certainly love to hear how our audience reacted, and if they have any question, would love to kind of like get.
We will move to our fantasy stock pick section. So, Ankur, we have completed the August month fantasy game, right? So, yeah, looks like we both were red. Do you want to give an update on your picks?
Yeah, I am dark red. Lot of loss, almost $900. All my four picks did pretty bad. I think the worst one was Airbnb for me. Whatever profits I made from Airbnb in the previous months, all of those were lost. And
Yeah.
then CRISPR, Ford, QQQ, all of them are in red. Totally a loss of $900. So a significant amount of loss, almost I think like 7.58% loss in 1 month. So not a good month for me.
Yeah, I think it was overall not a good month for stocks. Let's review my picks, right? I think I made a loss of $324 as well. Out of my 10 picks, 7 picks were red. Lucky enough, Amazon, Nvidia, and Workday turned out to be green somehow. Uh,
Yeah,
and
good
our
pick.
common pick, Airbnb, is again one of the top losers in this pick as
Yeah,
well.
for you, the
So,
top loser is Airbnb. Yeah.
Airbnb, and that was the only common pick between you and me, Ankur, right? So, anyways, I think so. Yeah, with the end of August month, definitely I won the game. But even though we both made loss, right? So, right
Yeah.
now, yeah, right now we have done the September month stock picks. So we will love to share the new month game, right? So Ankur, if you can.
So before I show the picks for this month, let me show the leaderboard. So these are the monthly gains for Vishal and me for June, July, and August. As you can see, we both made gains in June and July, and then had loss in August. I won the June month fantasy league, and Vishal has won July and August. So, congratulations,
Thank you,
consecutively two
Ankur.
wins for you.
I
Uh,
think it is not consecutive. If you see the July month, it is hardly $10 difference. So that July month is kind of equal. Equal, I will say. The results were very equal. Um,
but win is a win is a win.
win is a win. Yes. Yeah.
So I'll just quickly like recap the rules of this game for anybody who is listening for the first time. So every month we start afresh with $10,000, and any profit or loss made from the previous month. And the rule is that you can choose any stock or ETF at the beginning of the month, and then throughout the month you cannot sell them. And we basically tally the profit or the loss by end of that particular month. So for September, we have already chosen the stocks. We'll show it to you, and then we'll tally on last day of September who has made the maximum profit or loss. That person wins. So we'll start with mine. So for the month of September, my picks were Google, Salesforce, and a gold ETF. And
That's nice.
I am already in $92 loss. The market is not doing very good right now.
Yeah.
So Google is up $10 for me, but both Salesforce and gold is down. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's my.
And you have invested most of your money, right, Ankur?
Yeah, I only have like
Yeah.
$15 in cash.
Yeah, and you are starting with $10,503
Yeah, my investment was this much.
this month. The starting balance was that much. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
cool. I like the gold pick in your picks, by the way.
I was like, instead of putting the money in cash, I think the market may not be maybe going down, so I wanted to balance
Hmm.
my investment. So I put like about 25% of the money in gold. So that was the
Okay.
reason I put it in gold. But it's also down $13, which is fine. Not a lot of loss.
Yeah, not a lot. Okay,
Let's look
cool.
at yours.
Yeah, so for me, I think this time I was literally very worried about doing stock picks, to be honest. I went with a more safe way of doing stocks, which is I have picked six ETFs. And these six ETFs are not only in one sector, but different sectors, right? There is one very well-known ETF in this, IVV, the second ETF, which tracks S&P 500 straightforward, right? Another ETF tracks reality market. Another one tracks consumer goods, and one of them is basically tracking the health sector as well, right? So with that said, I have kept significant amount in cash, by the way, this month. Almost
Hmm.
$3,000 I have kept in almost $3,000 I have kept in cash.
Nice.
And basically, out of six, four ETFs are in red, only two ETFs are in green, and I am having a total around loss of $20, right? So yeah, let's see how this month goes. I think with the picks that I saw from Ankur's side, we both are very cautious this month, I will say, right? And
Yeah.
hopefully it is a good month and we see some gains. If not, yeah, I think we have made right choice decisions based on seeing if the market turns into red.
I think your decision to put 30% of the money in cash might turn out to be a very good decision based
Maybe,
on
yeah.
how it's looking like. So
Yes,
it's
we
a,
still have 15 days,
yeah, yeah. Let's see.
so let's see. Cool. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys, that's all for this episode. I hope you all like our career growth series on promotions, role transitions, and switching companies. And please visit our webpage, the techbanter.com. Like our video and subscribe to the channel. We are also available on all major podcast platforms and YouTube. So give us a listen and share it with your friends. And with that, have a good day. Bye
Cool.
bye.
See you. Bye.